All right, good morning, everyone. This is the June 8th Transit TAC meeting. Let's go ahead and get started with introductions. I will read off the list of participants I see. We have Drew Nichols from SCTA. I'm Dana Ture with SCTA. Maria RC with Sonoma County Transit. Stephen Schmitz with Sonoma County Transit. Steve Bertelbaugh, Sonoma County Transportation Land Use Coalition. Rachel Eade, San Rosa City Bus. David Davenport, Golden Gate Transit. Jared Hall, Petaluma Transit. Emily Betts, SMART. David Ripperda, SCTA. Ada, Marin Transit. Suzanne Smith, SCTA. Sean Sosa, San Rosa City Bus, and Jacob Brown with Golden Gate Transit. Did I miss anyone? All right, let's move on. Is there any public comment?
Thanks, not today.
All right, thanks. The next item is approval of the meeting notes. These are from April 13th, since we did not have a May meeting. Does anyone have any comments or corrections on the notes? No. All right. The next item is regional funding, and we wanted to provide a notice to all of you that the SCTA funding program and OBAG Cycle 3 grant staff recommendations will be presented at the next Technical Advisory Committee meeting on June 23rd at 1:30 p.m. So, several of the transit agencies have submitted applications to that program, and we encourage you to attend that TAC meeting on the 23rd. So, David or Suzanne, did you have anything to add to that announcement?
Just to let everyone know, we're developing our staff recommendations right now, and they should be posted with the TAC agenda. So part of that is also dependent on whether or not we can get the Transit Interstate Rail Capital Program grant that we should hear back on this month, but it's still unclear on the timing of when CalSTO will do those announcements. So we're hoping we hear back this week or next week in time for the TAC mail out.
Great, thanks, David. Any questions on this item? All right, so next under regional funding is the quarterly status report for the Transportation Development Act Article 3 and Transportation Fund for Clean Air Projects. This is for FY22 Q3, so it's coming to you a little bit late. There's been a few projects that have invoiced since this, but I'll just briefly go over. The first page is the TDA Article 3 projects. There's a few there that are highlighted that are setting to expire at the end of this fiscal year. And then the next page is the Transportation Fund for Clean Air Projects. We don't have any expirations coming up, and there have been a few projects that have been fully invoiced since this quarterly report. So that will show up in the next quarterly report, as should the projects for fiscal year 22-23. I'll also just note that David Ripperda will be taking over the TFCA program. So been working with him to transfer over the program. So likely once the contracts for the 22-23 program come out, will be around the time that that transition will fully happen, and you'll be hearing from David on that. So any questions on the quarterly report or TFCA program? All right.
Sorry, I can't find my buttons. I'm not even on camera. Hold on a second. There I am. I just
invisible man.
Yeah. I just wanted to find out, there's a note on the bottom of the TFCA that June 24th to send any invoices for this fiscal year. for TFCA program stuff. Is that accurate? And if so, can we send like an updated one early July?
Yes, absolutely. So, I think that we will get a end of fiscal year schedule soon and be sending out a notification. I believe June 24th was the date last year. So it's probably around that time where we'll either need an invoice with any expected expenditures through the end of fiscal year if possible. It's kind of a cleaner way to close out the fiscal year. Or an alternative would be to send us anticipated expenditures through the end of the fiscal year without an invoice. And then we'll have a later deadline for that final invoice that's through the end of the fiscal year. So yeah, take a look out for an email coming soon on those deadlines. But thanks for catching that. All right. Any other questions on this item? All right, let's move on to item number 5, which is the transit integration updates. I think of the last meeting, we kind of combined this item discussions on the future of transit project work with various transit integration items developing through MTC. I'll just give a brief summary on a meeting we had with the Future of Transit ad hoc last week. We had 2 new members of the ad hoc, so we gave an overview of the work that's been done to date through kind of the phase 1 of implementation of the project, as well as an overview of the scope for phase 2 that is really going to be launching starting, we'll have the funding available and ready to launch it the July 1st. We also had a discussion on the approval of 5 or more fare-free days that from the councils and boards for Santa Rosa City Bus, Petaluma Transit, and Sonoma County Transit, and coordination we're doing with the 3 operators on syncing up those fare-free days that are throughout the year. So that's the first day was Earth Day, April 23rd, where all 3 operators provided fare-free service, and we're working on solidifying dates for to provide fare-free service moving forward, roughly 5 days per year for the 3 bus operators. We also talked through other potential fare-free programs, including the governor's proposal to subsidize fare-free transit that was in the May revised to the state budget, and we're still waiting to hear the final word on that. So with that, I will just open it up to if anybody has anything to add on the Sonoma County specific transit integration work. And then we could also move on to more regional transit integration topics if anybody has any.
Well, I don't know if it would be a good time to mention that Brian, he said he couldn't be here, but he emailed Sonoma County Anna Yep about the climate resiliency fund application that we put in. Actually, I don't think we put it in yet, right? It's due in the near term. He was asking the date that it's due, but it's coming up imminently within a couple weeks. And we're going to put in for that, of course, to get free transit for K-12 students starting next year. And hope for the best with that item. And that would be for 2 years, right, Rachel? That transpired?
Yeah, it would be for fiscal 24 and fiscal 25. So not the coming fiscal year, but starting in 24, 24, 23, 24. I'm like already there. Like, what year is it?
That's great to hear. What grant is that?
This is the county has Sonoma County has a climate resiliency fund that's made up of PG&E settlement funds. And so they've already done one round of disbursements, and this would be coming back. And there wasn't anything for Fare Free Transit funded in the first round, but there was a lot of public interest. And so this would be coming back with a smaller scale proposal than what Sonoma County Transit originally brought forward. But the one that would involve the 3 bus operators. So Emily, happy to chat more about that. And it's still, we're still kind of, we haven't met with the county CRF staff about it yet to review, but I think that is the next step, as Jared indicated, to get their feedback. So we're still kind of in the process with that.
And then I know we're awaiting word this month for the TERSIP application. That was approximately 24 million, if I recall. It would give about 10 million for the Petaluma Corona Smart Station, and then about 14 for the various operators for zero emission bus purchases. I know we're expecting to hear back in June. I haven't heard any updates. Does anyone know anything more about that?
Correct. Yeah, we still haven't heard anything back yet from Calsta, and I think they usually announce it in the middle of the month. So I'm hoping you're back this week or next week.
Great, okay. And that's TERSIP, Transit Intercity Rail Capital Projects.
Correct.
Right, thank you. Does anybody have any other topics they'd like to bring up on transit integration or any of the Blue Ribbon Transportation Task Force work through MTC?
Well, I just wanted to bring up, and I think Emily initially raised this question regarding, Suzanne is representing all of us on the network management business case group, and it sounds like there hasn't been a lot of progress made, and still sort of talking about the process more than actually moving forward into it. But, I thought it would be good just maybe to touch base in this forum about, once that work gets sort of more substantive, what's the best way for us all to support you, Suzanne, or to share information related to that process, among
You
this
can have
group?
my seat on the committee.
No, thanks. Thank you for doing that, by the way. And I'm sorry it's been not a lot of
Never
action so far.
again.
Thanks, Suzanne.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. But honestly, I would not be capable of going through the slide deck that they have used so far and providing any grand insight to what they're doing. I mean, the big beef, I guess, is this a business case scenario or analysis, or is it something else? And the large operators, but I think all the operators are like, this was supposed to be a business case analysis, and it's not. It's, someone referred to it yesterday as a beauty contest of things that could happen or something. I forget how they phrased it. So I don't know. I am of a mind that we should just, like, MTC has some things in mind that they want to analyze. Just do it. And if we don't like that, then let's be critical at that juncture. Trying to continue to shape the table, so to speak. It's just, we're like 4 meetings deep of that.
Yeah.
And it's just, and there's no, there's no changes. So like, let's just, but once they do provide some, like, here are some considerations for a network management scenario or a network manager scenario or some hybrids, then I think that's a great thing to actually react to.
Yeah.
And we should at this meeting, I agree.
Yeah, and I've looked at the agendas, and I had the same takeaway, which was like, there just doesn't feel like there's any there yet. So would you think at this point we just kind of keep monitoring what's being brought to those meetings and sort of start to engage as needed?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I would, David, I would blame Dennis for his leadership as chair of the group. I'm just kidding. totally kidding. Yeah, I think we should just continue to monitor. I think the next meeting is in July. I don't think there's one. Yeah, it's mid to late July, and I'm actually going to be on vacation, so I will miss it. So maybe at the August, I don't know. Are we meeting in July, Dana? Of this group?
25.
This
July
group's
25.
on the 25th. I think
we're
that's the same day as the network manager meeting.
I think that's what was Drew was saying, the network manager is the 25th.
Oh yeah.
This group will meet in early July.
Okay.
Um,
Well, so maybe early August we should have it on the agenda
mhm.
if we're meeting in August. Probably should if there's some substance from the July meeting.
That's fine with me. I haven't had the most bandwidth to follow that intimately. Once when there's something where it feels like, you know, here's the alternatives, you know, then I usually kind of look through it. I haven't had a whole lot of time to monitor the process and provide comments about the process and the shaping of that. But I agree, when it gets to that point, Suzanne, I'm kind of happy to run through them and discuss it.
Also just mention that the mapping and wayfinding project, MTC plans to bring staff or the recommendation for the award of the RFP to the operations committee in July, and then late summer, early fall, a contract to the board. So I mean, it's just award of the program, but that could be something we could discuss in early August as well.
Briefly, Dana, what is the nature of the scope for that RFP?
Well, it's rather large, but it's essentially the branding, the unified branding, and including the kind of scheme for Bay Area transit operators, mapping, wayfinding, signage, logos, website, and then including one of the pilot projects is set to be, for Sonoma County, for the bus operators in Sonoma County. So that's sort of the phase 3 of our transit integration work, is set to dovetail with that. That's the concept there. So and then there would also be a pilot in Solano County as well.
And that's building off of MTC's previous wayfinding and mapping project, right? Or, okay, good. I was hoping they wouldn't start over again.
No, that's my understanding. It's
Okay.
It's building off of the work that they've been doing, and so there will be a lot of engagement with that project with all of the transit operators, as well as public stakeholder groups, and it's very engagement heavy as well, and design. All right, any other transit integration comments? All right, the next item on the agenda is transit fare updates. And I know we touched on this a bit in the transit integration item, but does anybody have any other fare changes or Clipper start information or anything else they'd like to share?
I know we've discussed this in the future transit discussions, but just for the bigger group, we are planning, our K-12 free fare program is slated to go through December at this point, but we are planning to kind of jump ahead of that and go back to council with a proposal to extend the program for another year to 18 months, probably 18 months. And that kind of aligns with the CRF ask. So we just did a survey, got a lot of really great feedback about the program, and the ridership has certainly been way more than we expected. So we're going to continue to pull some TFCA funds to support that, and we can squeak by with our current rate of spending for our TFCA grants. So we're planning to continue that program, and we'll be bringing that to council sometime this summer.
Great. And did you say the extension you're asking for is 18 months?
So I think that's what it would have to be, because I think we figured out, and Sean's on, but the program's currently slated to end in December. And so what we want to do is take it through June of 24.
Right. So the next
Sorry. Clearly this like multi-year math is like beyond me today. Yeah. So we would take it through the full school year as opposed to just have it end in December again. And we believe we can do that. But Sean, correct me if I got any of that wrong.
You're pretty much always right. And that sounds right to me.
Good answer, Sean. Gold star. Yeah. So there you go. Confirmed by Sean.
All right. Thanks. Emily?
Let's see. Yeah, I'll just reiterate that Rachel's always right. And I also wanted to say that I don't know if anyone has given feedback to the MTC about the Clipper MOU. We tried giving some feedback, and of course, they didn't appreciate that very much. But there were a couple of things that I wanted to flag, and one was in the revised MOU. Well, one thing is that they say that once we get our app up and running, you're not allowed to use your own app anymore. However, there's no promises being made about turnaround time. I think it still could be that same wonderful 90-day window. So we just pushed back a little bit on the idea that we might still want to have our own app for A, B, and C, whatever it is in the future. And then the other thing is that there's a line in there that says something like, by agreeing to this MOU, you're agreeing to all of the recommendations of the Transit Integration Task Force regarding fare changes. It's very open-ended. And so we sort of said, well, we don't know what we're agreeing to. And then they said, well, this is the region, like it or not. So yeah, just a couple of things to flag there if you are still reviewing the MOU.
Emily, so it sounds like you've already submitted formal comments. Would you mind sharing those? Because it would help us out a little bit with our workload to maybe focus in on those areas and take a look ourselves. And it sounds like
it was just an email to Ed Meng, but I can forward it to you.
That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like an area where we might also be looking just for a little more flexibility in wording, although of course I think all of us are broadly supportive of the goals, right? But it want to make sure that we have a little bit of flexibility depending on how things play out, since there's a lot of unknowns at this point in time. So thank you.
Sure. And the more people who give feedback, it starts to dispel the myth that everyone's fine with it except for us, right? So
yeah, I'd like to see that too, Emily. I would share similar concerns that you have. This is the one that Ed Meng sent around on June 16th. Does that sound right? May 16th?
So last month sometime. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we had a meeting yesterday with other operators, and other ones shared concerns with some of the language that was in there along some similar lines. So I definitely don't think SMART's the only ones, that have done so thus far. I don't quite know what the process looks like or what the venue is for discussion of that amongst the operators and Clipper and Cubic to kind of get everyone together at one point to run through those concerns. Do you know anything more about what that may look like? No.
I think there is a venue.
Okay.
Oh, and Emily, would you be able to share that with me as well? We're we're trying to figure out who's going to be handling Clipper now. We've had some staffing changes, and MTC has told us no, you can't have some features that we need to have to run our ferry service. So we definitely
That's interesting.
want to agree to certain things.
That's interesting to hear, because you know how they are. It's like, well, we have a process now for submitting changes. And if you would like to do something that's a variation from the norm, you just need to fill in this form and send it to us, right? I mean, Golden Gate, they made a big example of how for Golden Gate, they've done changes for the ferry. And, you know, I mean, most of us are small operators up here, right? And we're the bottom of the list. And there were no accommodations to be made in the last decade for any sort of special fare product of any kind. And,
Yeah.
you know, and that's what,
It's been challenging for us as the smallest big operator, although I don't know, I think County Connection might have passed us during COVID. But yeah, you know, there are some business things we need, like a reservation system for special event ferry service. And, you know, I think I'll feel kind of silly if 5 years from now we're still using tickets.com, which is the only system that we have available to us at the moment. Sorry.
yeah, our comments were somewhat informal, but I'm happy to forward them to you.
Yes. It'll just be a good reminder for me so we can kind of track down who's handling this now. Thank you.
Thanks, Emily. Are there any other fare related comments?
Oh, yeah, just a quick thing. I actually haven't been too involved, so I don't know if this is just big operators or everyone, but based on how we conduct our business at Golden Gate, we'll be going to our board in July to approve the Clipper region-wide institutional pass thingy that's coming out. Even though I don't think there's any North Bay institutions included in the pass program, but since we do go to SF in the East Bay, I think we're involved. So it should be an easy approval for our board, but of course there's always a financial implication. So it'll be interesting to see if we get much usage or not.
From what I recall, it's 2 phases, right? And SRJC would be in the first one, which does impact us. But I think with the second one, what is it? They're doing like 10 major regional employers. And I think from what I've heard, none of those may necessarily be in the North Bay.
Right. Okay. So there is a North Bay school at least. Okay.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
And I just saw that they're going back to much more in person in the fall at SRJC. So that'd be good timing.
Great news.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to transit operator updates. Emily, would you like to start with an update on SMART?
Sure. Ridership continues to trickle upward. Average weekday ridership was up 4% in May, and we got a big boost from starting Sunday service on May 1st to our total ridership. And our Saturday ridership's been very strong as well. It's really interesting to watch that, you know, in light of trying to figure out new pandemic era patterns. We are restoring 10 trips per day on June 13th. So the weekday schedule will have 36 trips, which is basically our full schedule. So that's exciting. And I think I sent you all the new schedule, but I'll send you the final version in case I didn't do that. Let's see, we're going to run our first ever special service to meet the Giants Ferry in June. We're going to serve the 1 p.m. games on the weekends, which is just 2 of those in June, on June 11th and 26th, which are Sundays. And our existing southbound service on that day is timed well for the ferry, so people can take that down. We're going to add a car. And then coming back, we're going to have a special train to come down to meet the ferry. So buy your tickets for the Giants game and take the train and the ferry. It'll be fun. And then if it goes well, we're going to continue it into July and August. And I think that's all I have right now.
So since the ferry's timed with the end of the baseball game, does the train have to be kind of on call as well?
It does, and that makes it really difficult because it's unknown how long the games will last. So even with the 4 p.m. game, just the unknown length of the actual game meant that we couldn't have a train waiting there indefinitely, right? Because it might exceed the hours of service for the staff. So actually, the train's actually not going to even leave the yard until the baseball game's over. Yeah,
Interesting.
everybody's waiting.
Yeah, I look forward to hear how that goes. Hopefully well. All right. Sonoma County Transit. Would you like to go next?
Sorry, I did have one quick question for Emily. Emily, is Smart done with the listening sessions now?
Yes, listening sessions are done.
Okay. Was there like a summary or anything presented to the board or something I could find online? You know?
There hasn't been a summary presented yet. There've been a few things from the ridership session, but I think a summary, I think they're going to present it in parts, like a ridership summary and then a bike path summary, presumably starting next week, but not yet. I'll try to send that out to you too once it's ready.
Hi, everybody. Stephen Schmitz here, Sonoma County Transit. We're having minor schedule changes coming up this weekend, June 12th and 13th. So really pretty minor, just stopping our tripper service for the summer for school service in Roanoke Park, Cotati, and Route 26, which provides service from Sebastopol into Roanoke Park, primarily for Credo High School. Our next 3 BYD buses have been delayed a bit, but are due now in October. And then we're going to get 3 more BYD 35-footers following May. So that'll bring our fleet of BYD buses up to 9 at that point. And then we've decided to partner with Proterra on a low-no grant that we submitted recently for 6 battery electric buses. And we've got a pretty big grant pending with FTA for upwards of 9 or 10 Proterra 40-foot buses that would arrive hopefully by 2024. So we're moving forward on our battery electric buses, trying to stay ahead of CARB requirements. The only other thing, Maria, I don't know if you want to mention the paratransit app that I think we're going to start going live on July 1st, that we partnered with City Bus and Petaluma on a common application.
I think you covered it. We're getting our staff ready and going to have it on our website. So we're really excited about having the access there.
You say the transit app?
Paratransit application.
Oh, okay. I thought
The eligibility.
Is it for trip booking or for eligibility?
Eligibility.
Eligibility.
Oh, I see.
It's the revised consolidated paratransit application, Emily, that we were working on for the past couple months.
Next bus, we're crossing our fingers that they'll start installing equipment back in our buses. We got turned off a few months ago because of 3G, but supply chain issues have apparently been resolved, and we've got promises that they've got equipment for the 4G stuff to start being installed in July. So hopefully later this summer, we'll be back up with our real time. I think that's all for Sonoma County Transit.
Great, thank you. All right, Santa Rosa City Bus. Did you go next?
Sure. Yeah. So just a few little things for us. I think we finally, and Sean can back me up, we thought we were breaking ground on our phase 1 BEB charging infrastructure, and then there was a supply chain issue, but I think it's happening this week, and Sean was out there looking yesterday, and I don't know what you found, but hopefully that project is moving forward now. But there continue to be issues with getting different components. So, you know, that supply chain issues hitting us on the charging infrastructure side as well. Our buses are still expected late August, early September. Our first 4 battery electric buses will be placing an additional order with Proterra using our options for another, how many, Sean, remind me? 5. I was gonna say 4 to 6, so it was middle, perfect. So that's exciting. So also trying to move forward expeditiously with that transition. So it'll be an interesting fall, getting our buses up and running. We just kicked off our short range transit plan update yesterday with a study session at the city council. We're going to be doing, MTC's requirements plus more. We feel like at this point, we really do need to have a more up-to-date service plan and start to think about things like Go Sonoma coming down the line. So we're going to be doing some extra outreach this summer to develop some short-term service changes as well as longer-term concepts about what we might bring forward for the Go Sonoma funds. So that will be make for a busy summer. And other than that, we're just really struggling on staffing still. We are having to cancel some trips in the month of June due to our ongoing staffing issues, which is somewhat demoralizing for the group after getting this far in the pandemic, but we continue the hiring and training, and we've got a number of new drivers in the pipeline. It just, as you all know, takes several weeks to get through the process. So hoping by later in the summer that we'll be in better shape, but it's been a bit of a struggle, not gonna lie. So, I'm not gonna try to steal any of your guys' operators, but if you know anyone else who doesn't already work for a Sonoma County operator who might be interested, we are hiring. All right, that's all I have. Sean, anything to add?
Yeah, just on our infrastructure, it's interesting how we already, the contractor has the chargers. It's the ABB switchgear, I think, and it's the breakers. That's like the only thing. So it's amazing how one small bit of a piece of equipment is, sourced from somebody, and that's holding things up. And so rather, it used to be the contractors like, instead of coming out and do the construction and then stop construction and then come back once the equipment comes in, we'll just do it all at once. Well, now it's at the point that we're like, let's just get the project going so that once the product is ready, it's just one last thing to put in. So they are on site. Yesterday when I looked, everything was cleared out, and it looked like they were even starting to do a little bit of digging. So it's moving, but it's one of those, it could be waiting on a breaker.
Is this based on, you did a separate RFP for the chargers, right?
We
As a
did.
result of that?
What was the question?
You did a separate RFP, right? And it was based on that, the project?
Right, yeah, we did a separate RFP. Proterra, we let them know since we were buying the buses from them already to make sure they got their bid in as well. That's when Texas had that snow electric issue, and their next day FedEx delivery of their package did not make it next day, which means they didn't make it in time to be part of the bid opening. So they lost. But fortunately, in a way for us, is we got Cupertino Electric to do the construction, who is also the contractor that's working with PG&E EV Fleet. So essentially both sides of the project are being done by the same contractor. So Cupertino did our design build, and they're already doing the design build for PG&E. So essentially it's one contractor, 2 projects, 1 full project. So that's in a way helpful for us, but also, it's interesting with Proterra's build coming closer, making sure Cupertino knows that, now they're starting to get like, let's look at the contract language to make sure you're on time, since technically they were supposed to be done by the end of last year.
And what type of chargers did you say you're using?
They're ABB HVC 150s. So they're 150 kilowatt dual port chargers.
Okay, I'm guessing you had multiples like charge point, some of those did they put in for it?
We specifically wanted chargers that could at least output 150 kilowatts through one plug. So I think there were only a few that the contractor was looking at.
Okay, nice. I'll go do later on. I'm curious to hear more about that process.
And yeah, Yuri's more the contract manager for that, so he may even know more about that information as well.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you. Petaluma Transit.
Thank you. So we're also doing a minor service change over the summer. School's ending this week on Friday, the last day. And so we'll be curtailing our school trippers for the next few months, which the timing on that's good because we similarly have a driver shortage. Have been missing some trips recently. So at least for the summer, I think we'll be able to cover everything and buy us a little bit of time though if we get more drivers on board by the time the fall rolls around. But one of the things we've been working on is our contract renewal with MV, our transportation contractor. And then part of that will be an adjustment to some of the costs to bump up the wages, so we're hopefully more competitive nearby with other agencies to hopefully help to address that issue. Other personnel things, we've been spending a lot of time on personnel. We've hired a permanent planner one, Carly Spencer, who you'll meet. I'm sure several of you met already. And then we have a senior transit planner who's starting July 25th, named Ray Atkinson from the Portland area. So we're very excited to have them on board and fill our staffing vacancies on the city side, which is great. We last week went through our FTA triennial review, which occurs every 3 years, of course. So that's a pretty comprehensive review. And I know Santa Rosa just did theirs a week prior, I believe. So glad to be done with that process because that's a pretty intensive one. And then lastly, there's a tour being set up in Petaluma on June 15th that people may be interested in. Chuck Marone from Strong Towns is visiting, and they're setting up kind of a 3/4 day event for that. That'll have multiple different components, one of which is going to be a bus tour for a couple hours, but they're going to cover a variety of kind of land use, transportation-based planning, intersects. So if people are interested in that, let me know and I can send around more information. They're still kind of finalizing the agenda for it, but they'll probably have more of those details set within the next couple days. And that's it.
Thanks, Jared, and congratulations on staffing up. That's very exciting.
Thank you.
All right. Golden Gate Transit.
Good morning, everyone. Quite a few items to cover. We also had our FTA triennial review in May. Hats off to Jacob for shepherding that through Golden Gate, and happy to have that behind us for another 3 years. Also, Van Ness BRT had just opened before our previous meeting, which was back in April. Sounds like everything is going smoothly down there, so that's great. I may have mentioned previously, but now that there are 24-hour bus lanes on Mission Street, the BRT lanes on Van Ness, and then there's weekday HOV lanes now all day on Lombard Street. So we've really made a lot of progress in bus access through San Francisco, which we struggled with for several years. It was very tough running our buses through all of the different construction projects in the city. So it's really nice to have 3 big ones done, so that we can have more reliable timings on our schedule. We're not really anticipating reducing travel times yet, but we are moving towards at least having more consistent travel times, which is great. So the big obstacle, of course, now is Highway 101 in Marin County, but that's a very different political beast than San Francisco. On the service change front, we have service changes starting this Sunday as well. On the Sonoma County side of things, it's just minor schedule changes to the 101 and 172. A lot of the service changes really center around what we're doing in Marin County. We really made the effort to restore some service that we had suspended back in March due to staffing shortage. And so we've had to reconfigure service on routes 130 and 150 to really pull that off. But I'm happy to say that Route 150 will be coming back on the weekends. And also we will be restoring peak service on Route 101, but only from San Rafael to San Francisco. We really looked at where the ridership was during those peak times, and it's only between those two areas and not north to Santa Rosa. Let's see, patronage, we're on an upward trend, which is good. Preliminary data for the month of May looks like we're up about 8% for compared to the previous month for bus, and we're up about 10% for ferry compared to the previous month. The ridership gains seem to be on weekdays and weekends for bus. For ferry, we had, you know, from April to May, from March to April, we had a big jump across the board by day of week on ferry, but really from May to June, we've just seen that our weekday ridership is flatlined, but our weekend ridership is up significantly. And so on the ferry side of things, a new thing for us is actually we're carrying more passengers on an average weekend day on ferry than we are on an average weekday. So go figure. But it's still the traditional trend for bus, which is busier on weekdays. But the gap between weekdays and weekends is not nearly as significant as it was pre-pandemic, which I think we all know, you know, it's a more transit dependent ridership, not so many people commuting to offices. So hopefully the upward trends continue, at least on the bus side of things. Hopefully they don't continue too quickly because we still have a staffing shortage, which is why we had to make some hard decisions on what our service in Marin County looks like in order to bring back trans-Bay service to the level that we needed. We're continuing to recruit for bus drivers. I think really, you know, the trajectory for the rest of this year seems to be keeping pace with attrition and retirements. And we'll try to eke out some service expansion if we can, but I'm not particularly optimistic about that, at least not in the next 6 months. Speaking of staffing, our longtime manager of traffic engineering retired back in mid-April after our last meeting. So we're still down one person in the planning department, but we've moved around. And Ray Santiago, who some of you may have worked with in the past, was promoted into Maurice's position. And I was actually promoted into Ray's. So we'll probably be recruiting for another planning position. Sounds like maybe later this month. So stay tuned on that. As far as I know, it will be internal and external recruitment. Let's see. Also, we just kicked off our short range transit plan process here. It's a very tight timeline, so we'll see how it goes. I think we will be approaching this 3 revenue scenario structure that MTC has proposed. We'll have 3 scenarios, but I don't think we're going to go with the scenarios that they proposed because they don't really seem to make sense. Especially our scenarios 2 and 3, where I think unlike almost every other transit operator in the Bay Area, our scenario 2 is actually smaller than our scenario 3, which is not really the intention of the design of the exercise. So we'll see how that goes. And then the last thing, we are rolling out as part of our June service change, new bus stop information display signs at the bus stops that we have, where we have these little rectangular green signs you may have seen. They're mostly in Marin County, but we do have a few in Sonoma County. And if you're interested, seems like we have the time. If I could share my screen, I could just show you a mock-up of what the new design looks like. Let's see.
You should be able to share.
Okay, yeah, I see. Okay, good. All right, so you guys disappeared on me, but hopefully you can see a PDF.
Yeah.
You see my cursor?
Yeah, thank you.
So this is actually 2 different displays. There's this one on the left, and then there's this one on the right. And what we'll be doing is we'll have, when all is said and done, I think we have a little bit over 100 of these, somewhere between 100 and 120. A majority of them are designed like you see here on the left, which is they're kind of at more minor stops, if you will, like in neighborhoods and stuff. And it's just an updated appearance of our displays that are currently out there. You know, more colorful, a little bit easier to read. We kind of cleaned up the route information, so it's just more of a quick reference design. And then we added a lot more information here at the bottom now that most people have smartphones and we have real-time schedule information, unlike, back when these signs were previously designed like 15 years ago or so. And then the style on the right is, excuse me, the style that we'll be putting in at major bus stops. So for example, this is at Spencer Avenue bus pad. And so what we do is we still have this route information listed here, but we've actually incorporated a schematic diagram to help people with understanding the relationship of the route, the different routes at that location and where they go. So not every stop is listed, of course, but major transfer points and time points are listed to help people kind of understand what's going on. And we do also call out park and ride lots and smart train connections to help a little bit with wayfinding for people. And then we still have this information at the bottom, even though we've shrunk it down. So very happy with how this turned out. We have a relatively new member of our marketing department that when we hired him on, he was able to really be the project manager for getting this through. This is something we've wanted to update for a while, and we just haven't had the staff time available to do it. So really nice to see how it came out. And you should see them starting this summer. There's probably only about a dozen in Sonoma County overall, but you'll see them here and there, mostly in Marin County.
Hey, David, quick question. That looks really great. And I haven't been down in your area of the transit mall really looking at the information there, but in Santa Rosa Transit Mall, obviously. Is there anything planned in terms of refreshing what you have at those bus bays, or how does that fit in?
So what you saw here were like tier 1 and tier 2, if you will, stops. And we have this sort of other tier, which is the real major bus stops, so Santa Rosa Transit Mall, Redwood and Grant, Santa Fe Transit Center, Golden Gate Bridge Toll Plaza. And the signage design at those locations, it has been handled on a case-by-case basis. My understanding is there isn't any sort of comprehensive redesign currently underway for those, but I know it's something that our marketing department is considering, because we do want to have like a consistent design language for our riders, but also keeping in mind that there's some MTC stuff coming our way, and those major stops tend to fall under these regional transit connection locations or whatever they're going to call them. So like Larkspur Ferry Terminal, SRTC, will probably be dictated to us rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I can certainly see that, but maybe you could throw these on the poles or something, just like little. Anyway, we'll talk. But yeah, I totally understand that the major transit hubs fall into that different process. So.
Yeah, and
there's
actually,
there's information there. I mean, I don't think there's necessarily a lack, but I think the design of these is really nice and really legible for riders.
And as part of this update, we are pulling out old display cases at bus stops where we no longer have service because of the suspensions from COVID. And we've kind of gone through and said, well, bus stop XYZ is very unlikely to have service restoration in the next couple years. And so we're pulling down those cases. So we will have extra cases available. So, if you happen to be passing by the transit mall and go, gosh, this pole looks like it would be great for one of these, definitely reach out to me and I can see if we can put something together.
Thanks, David.
That was it for me.
I just had a small comment on that. Well, those look great, David, and congratulations on getting that accomplished. I was thinking about the transit app. I think you mentioned, or they referenced the transit app, and I was on there the other day testing something, and I noticed they've started charging money. Did you see that?
Yeah,
like
they
initial
have
tier
this
is free.
Royale program. I always think of Pulp Fiction whenever I hear the word Royale at this point. But yeah, it seems like a half-hearted attempt to me to really try to make some money without resorting to ads. It doesn't seem to affect anybody's ability to access our information.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a particular location, it won't prevent you from seeing any information surrounding you. But yeah, it's like if you're like in San Rafael and you just wanted to see what was going on in Novato, it would try to charge you. But if you just drag your location to Novato, then that issue goes away. So I don't know. I would be surprised if its current incarnation lasts, considering how it seems to look as an end user. You know, and certainly as an agency, we weren't particularly thrilled, but we decided to stick with it because there's not really a good alternative. Although Google Maps has really added some features that are more like the transit app. But officially, our partnership is still, you know, we tell people to go to the transit app for that information.
Yeah, I mean, we do too, but I just wanted to bring that issue up to the
Right.
group, really, because it made me a little uncomfortable right now that we've finally gotten to the point of referring all our customers there.
Exactly.
It'll be interesting to see where it goes with them charging for things. And, you know, another thing I noticed is that they seem to be crowdsourcing on-time performance. If I go on there now and click on Smart Train coming, whatever, it says something like 67% of people report this train as being on time. And I'm like, there's an actual on-time performance that's 95%. Like, can I give you that instead? So that's that sort of Yelp version of transit OTP is a little disconcerting. So
yeah, I think you're talking about the Go
that
feature in the app, right? You know, for a fixed guideway service, it doesn't seem particularly useful, but sometimes a bus will get lost somewhere in the GPS universe. And so I've found that at least for Golden Gate, it can be helpful for somebody actually pinpointing where exactly, you know, in the Marina District, the Route 101 bus is, or somewhere like the financial district where there's tall buildings and the signal might bounce around. But yeah, there's pros and cons to it for sure. But we still haven't found something at least better at the moment. So
I was just going to chime in briefly on that because I've worked with transit app before. Right now we're on task to work with Trillium, who's our website designer. Because what I like about transit is your ability to use your own dashboard and post the detours and things like that. But with our website, they have a product that allows you to put it just through your GTFS space, and then it's going to post to transit the way it would do on your transit dashboard, but also to Apple and Google, and then show up in the alerts when trip planning. So I'll continue to share on that as we go forward, because I think, yeah, there is a concern with transit. I love it, but also no control, even though we're partnered or I've been partnered in the past, you know, so I totally get it.
Great, thanks, David. Marin Transit.
Hi, everyone. So David, those signs really look great. And I like the fact that they also kind of are in harmony with what Marine Transit has in terms of like connection. So that's a great work well done, Golden Gate Transit. In terms of service update, so also we have upcoming service changes on June 12th, this upcoming Sunday. We have 4 routes that will have minor service changes. Route 36, we're going to be adding a Strawberry deviation. On Route 17, we will have a realignment to address the construction that is going on that on the Route 17 alignment. On the Route 71, we will cut 4 weekday late night trips, and then on Route 61, we will be back to seasonal schedules and cancel the 61M that served Mill Valley Depot on weekends. Also, on Memorial Day weekend, we resume the weekday service on Muir Woods Shuttle, and also the service from Sausalito Marine City. And that will be running throughout the summer between June 20th and August 12th. That is in reference to the weekday service. And also on June 4th, we started shifting the pickup location from Pohono to Larkspur Landing ferry terminal for Muir Woods Shuttle on weekends and holidays only. And that we saw a lot of good ridership there this past weekend. In terms of the general ridership, we continue to see a steady growth, still down about 25% compared to pre-COVID. We continue to see more recovery, obviously, on the fixed route with about 85% of pre-COVID ridership on fixed route and about 50% of pre-COVID ridership on the demand response services. And lastly, regarding the fares, well, we don't have any fare changes, but we have two fare promotions upcoming on local bus services, not applicable to the demand response services. So our board approved this past Monday to offer free fare during Marin County Fair. That's a 6-day period on June 30th through July 4th. And then we will have starting the free fares for students and youth 18 years or younger from June 12th through August 14th. And would welcome any opportunity to co-promote all of these, any fare promotions that your agencies may have. And that's it for me.
Thanks, Ada. All right, did we hear from all the operators? I think we did.
Hey, Dana, I just forgot one thing I just wanted to mention, more relevant to Sonoma County and Golden Gate, but we are meeting with Amtrak Thruway bus folks at the end of the month, I think on the 24th, to talk about adding a stop in Santa Rosa at the transit mall or in the vicinity, which is something we've wanted for years. And looks like everyone's got the bandwidth now to finally, maybe hopefully make that happen. And it sounds like there will probably still be 2 stops in Santa Rosa, but the current stop over on Edwards Ave has to move because of the 101 overcrossing, bike ped bridge that's going to be built. It's going to land right in the bus stop. So that will go away, but there probably will be a second bus stop other than the transit mall somewhere in Santa Rosa that has more of that, parking access that current location has. So we'll keep you guys posted about the concepts we're looking at, but definitely our first goal is to get a stop at the transit mall or immediately adjacent.
That would be great, Rachel. I was wondering, would you mind sending me the contact info you have there? The most recent one I have, I believe when I tried contacting him, I saw he had left and I don't know who the current person is.
Yeah, there's been some turnover and Yuri's been working with them, so I'll have to get that from him. But yeah, there's a new person to work with there, unless someone else happens to know, but. Okay.
Thank you.
And it'd be interesting to hear, for a second location, if there's a short list that happens to overlap with the park and ride lots we serve. And I don't want to put us out, but I'll say that Pioneer Industrial has lots of space. So even though we own it, that might be an option.
David, that's great. If you, I think that would be ideal. Obviously, like, why look for a new space that's not, if we can use an existing park and ride that has some capacity, I think that's a win-win for everyone. So if that's top of your list, you're great. Or if you want to shoot Yuri and I an email just with any other sites that you think would be particularly advantageous, that would be fantastic. And then we can make sure that those are visited and discussed on that site visit, because it's going to be, out in the field, looking at different sites. Awesome. Thank you for that.
And I'm just one planner, so I might get overridden, but it seems like an obvious opportunity. We'll be repaving the Santa Rosa lot this summer, so the facility should look a lot more presentable by August.
Great. And yeah, I would assume that this change wouldn't happen until the Thruway bus service's next schedule change. And I think it probably, there's no way it's going to happen before August, certainly. So that might work out really well. Okay, thank you for that.
We're also talking with them about adding a stop at the airport smart station. So,
Steve. No, you're on mute.
Are you into announcements?
Sure.
I just wanted to alert people that the Transit Riders United has a letter circulating that's getting sign-ons to have the county contribute to transit funding. They're asking, I think, for $5 million. They're aware that it's late in the budget process for that to happen, but people are beginning to realize that state funding for transit or outside funding really isn't enough. We need to get it local. Then I have a question. How are we doing on having everybody do service changes on the same weekend?
Yeah, I think that's happening. I mean, everyone's going this weekend, right? We're not changing anything because we're just trying to get our scheduled service out. But if we were changing stuff, it would be this weekend as well.
And there
No.
still is that regional effort underway for to have 2 coordinated signups region-wide, which one would be in early January and one would be mid to late August. VTA has shifted to that schedule already. They're the first ones out the gate because the timing lined up nicely with their driver union negotiations. But I'm not sure who's going to be next in line.
Well, congratulations. I'm glad to see it.
All right, thanks for that. I do want to mention that the governor's emergency order that temporarily modified the Brown Act may come to an end if there isn't action taken at the end of this month. So there's a chance we may be having in-person meetings starting next month. So please stay tuned. We'll be letting you know as soon as possible what the plans are for July meeting. And I believe this is our first committee meeting in July. So there may be some changes, and we'll be in touch about that.
Out of curiosity, are you in the office part-time or are you still fully remote there?
We're all in the office, mostly hybrid schedule, but we're all in the office at least part-time. But we have not been holding in-person meetings.
Quick question, just out of curiosity, since I don't get a chance to chat with the Sonoma County operators too much, although maybe I'll see you again later this week. Are other agencies, have you been shifting to a hybrid schedule? I feel like at Golden Gate we haven't yet, but I know some like Muni and stuff have started shifting that direction as well.
Yeah, we have started on June. We are now at 3 days in office and 2 days work from home.
We've been in the office the whole time. We never went remote. So we allowed people to work remotely. And at this point, there's a couple people who work in 2 days a week from home, which is the city policy adopted last winter, officially allows for up to 50% work from home, but it's just, I think, easier for folks to be in the office most of the time, though there's a little bit of remote work going on. John, did you have something to add? I see you showed up.
I like being at my desk with my big annual calendar that I could cross off the months as they pass like days.
And Petaluma is pretty much the same situation, Santa Rosa.
I was going to say our wall calendar in my office is still from 2020.
Sonoma
Yeah,
County Transit, staff have been pretty much in the office, same as Petaluma and Santa Rosa.
Yeah,
Okay.
us too. We're in the office.
Okay. Yeah, we've only been in the office for the occasional meeting, so I was just curious how it was going.
All right, any other announcements?
I
Comments?
do have one small announcement, not necessarily related to Marine Transit, but this would be my last week with Marine Transit. I have accepted a new position in private sector, and so next Tuesday would be my last day. I just wanted to say it was great to working with you all, and I hope that we will cross paths again. And I'll probably reach out through LinkedIn or emails to provide my personal email to stay in touch.
Thanks, Ada. It's been nice working with you and having you part of this committee.
Thank you.
Yeah, best of luck. Congrats.
All right, any other announcements? All right, thank you all. Enjoy the
Thank you.
rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.